activity today. And I just want to give you a little background about myself. I have a bachelor's in exercise science from Florida Gulf Coast University. I also ran cross country there for all 4 years. So that's a picture of my two coaches, the head coach, Cassandra, and then Coach Gio. He was our assistant coach. And then after that, I actually worked in cardiac rehab for a couple of years as an exercise physiologist. And then I decided to come to the University of Florida to pursue a master's in public health. All right, so the current levels of physical activity, globally, we've seen that a quarter of adults do not meet the recommended levels of physical activity, and we'll talk a little bit about what those guidelines are. So it does affect women disproportionately to men. So about 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men are not sufficiently active. And there's a 20 to 30% increased risk of death compared to the sufficiently active adults. So that's why it's really important that you do try to create some type of physical activity routine. And that we've seen inactivity is actually twice as high in high income countries, and this could be due to like transportation that we have here and just, increase of sedentary behaviors, increase of sedentary jobs that we have here. And we actually, unfortunately, have not seen any improvements in the physical activity levels globally since 2001. So if we're going to talk about locally now, if we're looking at Lutzow County, they do a community needs assessment every so often. So the last one in 2020 revealed that 3/4 of the respondents are actually sedentary, or they are they are insufficiently active. So they don't meet those recommended physical activity guidelines. 2 out of 5 met the strength training recommendations, and only 50% of them met the aerobic recommendations. And again, we'll go into this in the next slide a little bit more about what those are. And if we were asking like those in Alachua County what the top 10 greatest negative impacts are on health, they ranked physical activity or not getting enough of physical activity 6 overall. So I do believe like people know it's important, it's a problem. I think it's just maybe hard implementing it into our lifestyles. So here are those recommendations. This is from the World Health Organization that set these guidelines. So they say 150 to 300 minutes per week of your moderate intensity aerobic physical activity, or you could do 75 to 150 minutes per week of vigorous intensity aerobic physical activity. And you can also combine these as well. And they want you to be implementing at least 2 times a week of the strength training. So this can be, again, moderate to vigorous intensity. So I kind of wanted to talk about what that means and when they say moderate to vigorous intensity. So if you're looking at this scale here I provided, this is your rate of perceived exertion scale. You're going to be sitting about 4 to 6 for that moderate activity. So you're breathing heavily, but you should still be able to hold a short conversation. It should be somewhat comfortable. It can, it should be noticeably challenging, but not to the point where you'd have to stop. And same with the vigorous activity. So about a 7 or 8 out of 10 is where you would rate this. So you're borderline uncomfortable, a little short of breath. You should still be able to speak a sentence. Honestly, there is no reason to ever be at a 10 your max effort. I know even like in cross country for practice, we wouldn't even go at a 10. Like our coach said, no, like leave that for races. So there's really no point of you pushing yourself to the point where you feel like you cannot take another step. You're just so exhausted that you have to immediately stop. No reason to put your body under that much stress. And then on the other end, you don't want it to be so easy where you're not really seeing any benefit of it. So this is very individual. Some people can go off of heart rates for their intensity. I typically don't, just working in cardiac rehab. We all take different medications. We all come from different walks of life. So these things can actually affect, especially medication can affect what your target heart rate is. So just doing like a general prescription for people, I find it's way better to just go off of how you're feeling. So benefits of physical activity, it turns out that Elle Woods from Legally Blonde was right. They do release endorphins, and that does give you that feel good, that feeling after exercise. It also can decrease your risk of mortality or your risk of death. It decreases your risk of cardiovascular disease. So heart disease is actually the #1 killer of men and women in America. So really important to include aerobic activity into your routine. It can decrease your risk of high blood pressure later on. It decreases your risk of site-specific cancers, which I've listed there in the parentheses, all the cancers that it actually decreases your risk of getting. Can decrease your risk of type 2 diabetes. It can improve your cholesterol levels, your lipid profile, improve your mental health, improve your cognitive health, sleep, and then also improves your body composition overall, which body composition is looking specifically at how much muscle you have on your body, how much fat you have on your body, and then the water that your body holds. So aerobic training. So this is what's going to be increasing your heart rate and your use of oxygen for an extended period of time. So it still should be like structured for a certain amount of time. So for the moderate intensity, you can think about walking, biking, swimming, jogging are just some of these examples. In order to hit that recommended 150 minutes per week, you'd want to do 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. For the vigorous intensity, you can think about like running or sprints. You can do HIIT, which also is a part of strength training, which we'll get into as well, or interval training. So these are going to be things that are definitely getting your heart rate up higher, a little bit difficult. When we're thinking back to that RPE scale, you're going to be in that 7 to 8 range, where the moderate is going to stick to that 4 to 6 range. And then again, to get the minimum requirements of the vigorous intensity aerobic exercise, you want to be doing 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So if time is a big issue, which, I get that normal for working adults, right? So a time-saving tip is to break up this aerobic activity. You don't have to do all 30 minutes in one shot. You can actually break it up into 10-minute increments, and that's been shown to still have the same benefits over time. So for example, like now it's a little cooler in the mornings here at UF, maybe you choose to park a little bit farther from where you work just to get in that 10 to 15 walk already there in the morning. You're getting 10 to 15 minutes at home, and boom, you already have that 20 to 30 minutes done for the day. All right, so this is our strength training. Kind of these charts I'm going to break down for you. I hope that this isn't intimidating at the end. I find that strength training is probably the most intimidating type of exercise that people don't typically want to take part in. So when you do strength training, there's 4 different areas that you are targeting depending on the amount of reps you're doing. So there's the endurance, hypertrophy, which is building like your muscle size, strength, and then there's power. So when you're thinking of endurance, it's kind of like that longer, more repetitions that you're going to be completing. So to build endurance in your muscle, you're going to be doing about 12 reps or more, 15 to 20. I really wouldn't go over 20 reps. And then for the muscle size, that's going to be your 6 to 12 reps. Strength, we see 6 or fewer. And then power, which is pretty much putting that strength under a time, right? We want it to be explosive and fast. So that's what power is training. So that's can be about 1 to 2 reps, 1 to 3 reps, really. And then we see that we have the reps, now we have sets. So it's how many times am I going to lift this 12 times, this weight 12 times over my head. So when we're doing endurance or hypertrophy, the muscle size, you're going to be doing about 2 to 6 sets, up to 6 sets. I would say sticking at 3 sets for either of these is beneficial, 3 to 4. would be plenty, where you're gonna definitely notice a difference. Things are gonna start getting easier, the activities that you're doing. And then strength and power, we're gonna see even more of an increase in the sets that you're doing. Because we're doing fewer reps, you can increase your set. So they're saying, 5 or 6 that we can see. This also depends on how hard that you're lifting. So if you're doing an all out, max test, you don't want to be doing that 6 different times. It's just that one time and you're building up slowly to that. You do not have to do that though. Sticking in that 6 to 12 rep range is going to help you build that strength and make activities that you like to do feel much easier. And then I added this at the bottom, your rest period, depending on what you're doing. So again, that muscle size, that hypertrophy, you're going to want to take about 30 seconds to about a minute and a half between each of those sets to be sufficiently recovered, yet not taking too much time between that. So when you're building a strength routine, it's important to think about the major body parts, your lower body, your upper body, and your core. So the World Health Organization wants you to hit those spots about twice a week is the goal. So you can think about this, like make it applicable to your job, right? If you are sitting in a chair, getting up and down, that's squatting. If you're putting things up over your head, that's an overhead press. Picking things off the ground, you're deadlifting or pulling to your body. These are all things that you'd want to incorporate in your strength training routine. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be these, crazy complex moves. It really is just those simple exercises that you're doing on a daily basis, and we're just strengthening your body in those movement patterns. So a way to save time in the gym for strength training is to superset your exercises. So if you're doing, for example, squatting, I would superset that with an upper body exercise. Maybe you're doing like a chest press. So what you would do is you'd squat. When you finish your 10 reps, for example, you're going to go straight into doing the chest press for 10 reps, and then you start your rest period for the next set. So this is a really easy way to just cut down on time instead of breaking up every single exercise throughout the routine. Then we have your balance and coordination training. I included this because even though it's a part of strength exercise, it is really important to be incorporating these things into your activity, because as we are getting older, balance is going to become more important. And we know that if you were to fall, break a hip, that can be to your demise. So it's really important to be including exercises that include single leg movements. You can include like balance discs that you could stand on, a Bosu ball, which is like that half ball. It's like flat on one side, or a physio ball, just to add into some of these movements and kind of train your body for balance and that coordination. Tai Chi is a great way to do this. It's a very slow moving, a lot of balance, a lot of coordination through your body, going up on one leg, putting your arms above your head. It's really challenging. I was not a big fan of it until I tried it, and I was like, wow, my left side is a lot weaker than my right side. So it's a great way to incorporate this kind of training into your exercise routine. And then I included sports. So Forrest Gump, of course, with the ping pong, that's a lot of coordination. But also there's those more explosive sports like basketball, football. So they're going to be training more agility. That's very different than like your balance, because this is going to be all of that like power, your explosiveness, speed. It's going to be very sport specific. So if you are in like some type of club or league, it would be really important to include these trainings into your overall exercise routine, just to have that better movement pattern in those sport-specific movements. And lastly, we have the flexibility training. So these are going to be all of your structured exercises. So this is all about improving that range of motion around a joint. So dynamic stretches are going to be active. Think of like your high knees, This should be performed before a workout. It's just getting those joints, muscles activated, ready to move, ready to push harder in your exercise, whether it be, maybe going out for a run or you're lifting weights. Static stretches are going to be those passive holds. So you're going to want to hold these for about 30 seconds because that's been shown to improve your range of motion over time. So you want to do at least 30 seconds for each hold. And then you can perform these after a workout. It's going to help bring that muscle back to where it was its original length after a workout, because it's constantly going through contractions as you're working out. And if you're not stretching out, sometimes you can get that like build up where the muscle is not lengthened to its normal resting place, and you'll have like these little knots and nasty little things build up. So definitely important to include. And then just a time saving tip, if you do any type of yoga or a vinyasa flow, is going to be that strength training with yoga. And then hot yoga is going to be that cardio training. So you can hit all of that, your flexibility, strength, and cardio, just by doing a yoga class. And then we have what's called unstructured physical activity. So these are things like your hobbies. Maybe you don't even think about them as exercise, right? So that could be home gardening, your yard work, taking the stairs. Maybe you can get a stand-up desk at work, playing with your children, or house chores. So these are things like you don't typically categorize as exercise, but it is increasing your physical activity. So these are really important. And we've talked about home gardening, all of the benefits of that, of how it could even improve nutrition, your mental health, just all those dimensions of wellness. These kind of capture that. And so it's really important to increase just overall physical activity. It's going to improve your quality life overall. And these should be supplemental to the hitting those physical activity recommendations that I went through that are prescribed by the World Health Organization. So how do we get started? If you're going to start increasing your physical activity, I would highly recommend first getting a quality pair of shoes. I know that I think it's Gainesville Running does like shoe fittings, and they'll look at your arches of your foot. They'll look at the length of your foot. This is a really good idea to do before you start, just because I've come across a lot of people who have a lot of pain when they start getting into exercise, and sometimes it has everything to do with just not having a very supportive shoe. So I would highly recommend getting that done first. And then you're going to identify your current physical activity level and see how this is in relation to those recommendations. Are you meeting those recommendations? Then great, like continue with what you're doing. But if you need to increase maybe just that strength training element you need to add, that would be a good goal to implement into this new schedule. And now you're going to identify your SMART goals. So I'm sure you've heard about SMART goals. They're going to be specific. So they're going to be clearly state your goal, not simply I want to increase physical activity. This would be like, I want to incorporate strength training twice a week. So measurable, is this something that you can measure? Maybe your goal is, for example, losing weight. Maybe you get a weight scale, or maybe you're looking at cholesterol levels are a really important thing for you individually to do. So that would be like getting your test done every so often to see if your cholesterol levels have improved. Is it attainable? Is this realistic? Is this something that you would actually want to do as well? Because it should be enjoyable. If you're not enjoying it, the likelihood of being consistent is going to go way down. So definitely it should be enjoyable, but also realistic. Do you have all the resources? Do you have access to a gym? Do you have access, for example, to the Pilates club? And is it relevant? So I mentioned too, like thinking about those movements you do in everyday life. Those are some things that you would want to practice and strengthen in your routine. And then time-based. You want to set a time where you're checking in with yourself, making sure that you're hitting these goals. And if you're not, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. You should really start small, like small little goals. You don't have to go from 0 to getting those 150 minutes in per week. Just start small, track your progress over time. And we do this by using the FIT principle. So I spelled it out beneath there. It's frequency, your intensity, type of exercise, and time. So this goes really well with your SMART goals. If you're listing them out as SMART goals, this will already be taken care of. But basically frequency, how many times a week you're doing an exercise, what intensity you're going to be hitting, the type of exercise, is that strength training, aerobic training, flexibility, and then, your time. Are we looking at it at a week, maybe overall in a month where you're going to want to be, and then we can always progress from there. I would definitely give yourself at least 4 weeks before just changing your whole routine. If you feel like you're not hitting those goals right away, just give yourself 4 weeks, let your body adjust to it. It takes about 2 weeks before these new routines start to feel easy. So in that first week, you might actually see a decrease in performance. You'll experience some of that muscle soreness that's keeping you back. Now, it shouldn't be so sore where you can no longer do like daily activities without an issue. Then we push too hard, and then we need to reevaluate what intensity is. But a little muscle soreness is normal. That's okay. If you do have pain, please stop. There's no sense in pushing through any injuries or if it causes you any pain. And please feel free to talk to your doctor about making any changes to these routines, especially if you already have other conditions that might affect your ability to participate in certain exercises. Please talk with your doctor first. And is there any questions that I could answer for you guys? You can either unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
Carly, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
First, wonderful presentation. Could you provide a few more examples of dynamic stretches versus static stretches?
Yeah, absolutely. So a dynamic routine, I would say you'd want to include at least 5 different dynamic stretches. So that would be, I explained high knees is one, but it also could be zombie walks. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's you're constantly moving. So for a zombie walk, it's basically you're keeping your legs straight and you're kicking it out in front of you, and you're kind of going down to stretch, and you're walking as you're doing it. Or it could be where you're grabbing your foot behind you and you're kind of doing this leaning forward where you're stretching the front of your quads out. It could be as simple as arm swings, either coming around to your side or coming in front of you if you're doing upper body. So if you know what you're exercising that day, if you specifically are working at upper body, do dynamic stretches that work those muscles. Focus more on that. Versus if you're doing lower body, then you're going to do more of those exercises that are going to engage your legs. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So Carly, it looks like we have a question about sending out slides, but so we will have a recording of this. And kind of a summary that we'll send out prior to the next session. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Angie.
Oh, there's a question about online sites like Couch to 5K. I know there are, and I think Gator Care is doing something now. Yeah. Go ahead.
Couch to 5K. Yes. Okay. I've seen those. Actually, I don't really have anything bad to say about them. It all depends where you're starting, right? So if you really have not run at all and it's truly couch to 5K, I always like to start, and most of the routines follow this. They're going to combine walking and running first. So if it's truly your first time running, I always do a minute walk, minute run. See if you can get running about 10 times. So that'd be a total of 10 minutes for the day. And then each week you're going to want to increase that. So by week. So the next week you're going to do 2 minutes, a minute off, 3 minutes, and see if you can build yourself up to where you're doing those 10 minutes straight. And then once you can do those 10 minutes straight, that's when I would start looking at increasing by that 10% is what they say, each week from that point on. So you can safely, I would say, do those couch to 5K. I've seen a lot of them on Pinterest, but if you're looking into other programs as well, try to get an understanding of where this person's coming from, what kind of degree they have, or maybe they're a certified personal trainer. It should be easy, because I know sometimes that's not always regulated. For example, like in class, we've talked about a woman who, like, she's a journalist. She found what works for her, but she has a whole page on like fitness and nutrition. And I just be cautious of taking information that works for one person, because again, you all are individual, you all have different walks of life, different conditions, medication even that you might be taking. So definitely look into where this information is coming from, what degrees they have, what certifications, and then be able to wisely choose from there, like how you want to incorporate this into your routines.
And a couple folks from the Gator Care team have shared a link. They're going to be running a Couch to 5K program starting in March. So if you want to check that out, the link's in the chat. Kimber asks, how should I judge the level of weight for strength training? And she clarified for endurance.
That is a great question. So if you're exercising for that hypertrophy or like that muscle building phase, if you're getting to that 10th rep and it is so easy, like you feel like you can do more, then that's too easy. But if you get to about that 8th, 9th rep out of 10, and you're like, okay, this is a burn, like this is going to be a little push to get through, perfect. That's when you know you found the right weight. Now, if it's so heavy that you're starting to break form and you can barely get to that 10th rep, definitely want to back off the weight there. You shouldn't ever have to like break your form, because that's where injuries could come from. And for like the endurance, did you say you wanted more?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So for like endurance repetitions, it's basically anything that's going beyond that 12 reps. So for endurance, like, especially if you're into endurance activities like running, things like that, that's really good to have built into your routine. It also helps to like tone your muscles. So when you're looking to like have that length, kind of that toned look, this is where that endurance training is going to come in, versus like that strength and power is going to build more of that like stronger kind of bulkier look. So you can combine both, especially if aesthetics is like very motivating to you. But same thing with endurance. If you're getting to that, 20th rep and it wasn't challenging at all, then definitely feel free to up the weight.
And another question, any application recommendations to inspire routine elements, anything with dancing? So I guess that's looking for apps. And
that is a really good question. I don't know any like applications off the top of my head. I know that like my mom, for example, she's a Zumba instructor. So she has like a whole like page on YouTube for herself where she posts these videos out there where you can get free and dance to and learn different songs. But again, you want to like just check where these people are coming from. Like she's a certified personal trainer, so definitely would recommend. But I don't know if you guys have any suggestions.
so yeah, there's a couple here in the chat. Well, one for Fit On, a couple of people are recommending that's free. So definitely look at the chat. I think lots of people are sharing great suggestions there.
Okay.
There was one person here, Marina's asking, how do you actually make it to the gym? It seems so difficult. So Marina, we're going to go through some things if you can't make it to the gym in a moment, but we can circle back to that question. But we're going to go through some resources here at UF that kind of help you if you can't, if you're finding to kind of give you some support here on campus as well. But she's asking, how do you actually make it to the gym? Seems difficult. She wants to do strength training. So the Gator Care team and our wellness folks are doing a great job of putting some resources. We have some online resistance band training programs that they can look up. Do you recommend resistance band for strength training, Carley?
Oh yes, absolutely. Resistance bands are great. Even body weight can be great, especially for starting out and just trying to build that confidence.
And then somebody says they've started doing indoor climbing and assume that would fall under endurance strength training, particularly longer routes. Does that seem correct? Do you know about that?
Yes. So my sister and her husband are huge into like rock climbing. Yes, absolutely great strength training, especially endurance, and holding on to the wall for that long. I don't know how they do it, but yes, you're right.
So, I got a couple more comments here. So Zumba free classes. Yeah, so lots of people are putting these links in the chat. Oh, and Natalie says Nike Training Club is another free app. And so Natalie, I'll just tell you guys, is our wellness coordinator here in Human Resources and works with the Gator Care team on wellness. So I'm gonna go ahead and transition, but encourage you all to keep sharing in the chat. We're gonna go through some of the resources that you may or may not be aware of that you have access to as UF employees. I'll beg Patricia, Natalie, and others that are here on the call to, as I'm going through, maybe add some links to the things that I'm sharing, since you can't obviously click on the links that are going to be on the slides. And we'll share one at the very end that will help you find a wealth of resources available to you, again, as UF employees. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Angie Brown. I'm Director of Communications and Work Life here in the Office of Human Resources, and our office, our goal is to kind of meet you where the personal and the professional intersect. So we know the quality of your life, quality of your work are interdependent. So we put a high value on your health and well-being. And so we run as many as we can possibly do with our small and mighty team, wellness programs like these in partnership with UF IFAS, who we're really grateful to for helping us put on this program. And others that you hopefully see advertised in UF at work. We're always open to your suggestions. We're always looking for ways to meet as many people's needs as we can, again, with a small and mighty team and a small and mighty budget. So I'm going to go through some of the resources that you have available to you, at least right now, this very semester, this year. And we're open to answering any questions or helping you identify how to find out more about those. So hopefully, a lot of the things that Carley went through are kind of individual well-being that you can do on your own, a lot of personal wellness, but these can provide you some additional support. So if you can't make it to the gym, but you're here on campus and can make it to any of these, we do have a few now fitness classes available to you on campus. Our yoga class on Mondays and Tuesdays is led by Kim Holton, who's a wonderful local yoga instructor, also a professor, lecturer in health education and behavior here on campus. She's a wonderful yoga instructor. These classes won't give you probably the strength and aerobic necessarily, but they're really good. And that should say 12:15 to 1 p.m. My apologies, there's a typo though. So from 12:15 to 1, it'll give you a good break in the middle of the day to kind of stretch out, attend to your body a bit during the lunch hour, and hopefully you have enough time or can bring something to eat. I would recommend after yoga. Zumba classes are sponsored by the Gator Care team. They're out at UF Health Professional Park, which is on Williston Road. That can be a bit of a hike, but if you can get out there by 5:30, or if you're out in that area, there are wonderful teachers, wonderful classes, really popular. And thank you, Patricia. Patricia's putting a link to the list of classes here in the chat. We have Pilates now every other Thursday. I think the Pilates class this week was canceled. I think I saw Natalie say something about that. Natalie, you can mention in the chat if it is. But that's out on the Wrights Union North Lawn. Led by a dance instructor here at the university. And so that form of Pilates is not the one with the machines that I'm sure. Yeah, okay, so Natalie's saying that class is canceled this week, but it'll be back March 9th. So that's you just need to bring a mat to that class if you can. And it's basically just relying on the body resistance, not on any kind of machinery, of course. And then we've introduced stadium classes every 3 weeks. I think we just had one last night, so the next one will be 3 weeks from now. Again, that schedule's on our website. And that's led by a rec sports instructor. So even though it's every 3 weeks, she's giving kind of guidance in between those classes so that you can continue to do the stadium workouts on your own. Oh, right, it is Wednesday. Thank you, Natalie. It is Wednesday. I was thinking it was Thursday for some reason. So yeah, so go tonight if you're interested in checking that out. Gate 18 is where you would meet and check out that stadium class. So that was one that we had a lot of requests for. Again, we are always looking for more classes. I wrote down Tai Chi class because I think that would be a great one for us to add. So thanks for the suggestion, Carly. But if you have classes, if you have space, we're always looking for spaces to host classes. That actually can be part of our challenge, is finding out where to host where we know there'll be a good group of people ready to go. So if you and others in your area, you know, you have got a group who's really interested in doing something, please reach out to us so that we can maybe try to help get something established. We also have the online streamed classes that are on the Gator Care website. I think somebody mentioned one of those. Those are every day, well, except for Fridays at noon. And you can just kind of, again, tune in from the comfort of your workspace. Carrie says she loves them so good. So those are good classes to tune into as well. I hope by now that you're aware that faculty and staff this semester or this year for 2023 have access to 2 apps to support their well-being. So both the Noom app, which focuses on healthy eating choices, healthier habits to lose weight, offers virtual coaching. That we still have some licenses available for Noom. So if you haven't signed up and are interested, I'm watching the chat as well. We have some Noom. We have a lot of Calm licenses. We had more licenses available for Calm. That's also available to 5 of your dependents. It's a wonderful thing to share with your partner or children. We know anyone 16 or older can have one of the dependent licenses. If they're younger than that, then they just invite the parent to share with their child together. But we know a lot of kids out there are suffering from some stress and mental issues, and we hope that maybe having some additional support will help them. So you can choose one or the other of these. We want to make sure and spread the joy to as many as we can. So that gives us 7,500 license to offer out to our faculty and staff, and I encourage you to check that out. And Patricia, thank you for sharing the link for Noom and Calm if you haven't signed up. And I'm happy to see that you guys, sounds like some of you have taken advantage of these already. In March, I wanted to let you know that we have a full day program coming up that's resilience and mindfulness at work. So this explores various aspects of personal resilience, offers opportunities for increased self-awareness. There's an assessment that you can do, a little bit of pre-work prior to the session. So I said register today. It's not available till tomorrow, but we'll have that in UF at Work, our newsletter tomorrow, and you can from there log in and register via NetMyTraining. It is limited to 30 participants, so we ask that you both consider whether you are able to commit to that full day so you don't take a spot away from someone else, and that you're really willing to do the pre-work and dive in deeply to that program. Other opportunities that we invite you to check out on our website, we have some on-demand programs. The Healthy Lifestyle program ties in really nicely with what Carly was talking about with SMART goals. That program gives you some additional scaffolding to help create your SMART goals. And so you can use some of the terrific information that she shared today and supplement it with other information covering different dimensions of wellness as well. Our Goodnight Gators program is specific to sleep habits and patterns. We have a grief and coping one, which is pretty much what it sounds like for dealing with grief, led by, I'm blanking on the woman's name, but she leads our storytelling program here in the community. And she's also a professor over in the College of Journalism. It's a wonderful program if you're interested in kind of getting some support that way. Our health education and literacy program is designed to give you some support when you're going to your medical appointments. A lot of times doctors are busy, and so you have to be a really good advocate for yourself. And so that provides some additional scaffolding to get the help that you need to prepare for your medical appointments and become a better advocate for your own well-being. And lastly, our financial literacy resources are wonderful to explore. We'll be boosting those with some additional programming this spring, so be on the lookout for that. Of course, you can find us at our Benefits and Wellness Fair in the fall. We have an introduction to mindfulness class that you can sign up for, either a one-time to bring to your department. That's more for department visits, or a 6-part series as well. Resources to restore balance. I don't know that we still have that one. And our Perk Up Your Summer event, we're not having this summer, but we are going to be launching our summer camps directory. So if you have school-age children and are interested in finding a camp for them this summer, that directory is going to actually be released tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that as well. We also have a number of recorded workshops and talks with faculty experts here on campus. We have such a wealth of faculty doing cutting-edge research in different health and well-being types of academia. And so we do interviews with them, and we put those out to the public so they can become aware of kind of the latest trends on different topics. We also have a presentation request form there. So if you're interested in us coming to your department to either present this to make sure other people are aware, or one of these programs that you're interested in, Natalie on our wellness team here, or one of us can come and do a presentation for your department. Again, many resources there. Walking maps is a wonderful one to check out if you're looking to just take walks during the day. We have maps around campus that give you different time and location, so that you can do like a 20-minute walk in one location or a 10-minute in another. So check that out. Olivia says, for resilience and mindfulness at work, Tuesday, March of, it is a Tuesday. Let me check. So whatever that Tuesday is, the 28th, yes, yeah, not the 29th, sorry, if that date was wrong. We'll have to check that for you if at work as well. Great. I mentioned introduction to mindfulness. You can reach out to us. We have a form you can complete there to request these sessions. And so everything that we're kind of talking about here, we encourage you to check out our Work Life website. It has all of these kinds of wellness-oriented programs, as well as others. I mean, it's amazing to find out everything that's available to you as a UF employee, the perks of being employed here that you may not even be aware of. I sound like I'm making a sales pitch, but it's actually really exciting to find out the things that you may not be aware of that are there. So really encourage you to go check out that site, and we have it organized. The healthy section really ties in a lot, of course, to what we're talking about today. Lastly, I wanted to make sure, we talked about physical wellness a lot, but this is a multidimensional program, and we wanted to make sure you're aware of our employee assistance program. I'm just going to talk about it really quickly, but if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So as an employee, you and anybody that lives with you, so it doesn't matter whether they're your spouse or a partner, roommate, whatever it may be, can request up to 6 free counseling visits per person, per household, per event, per calendar year. So by event, we mean that could be something that happens in the spring that comes up for you. You have stress related to work or something like that. That's 6 sessions in the fall. If it was something that was family related, or you needed to get couples counseling, anything like that, that would be 6 additional sessions. So it's available to all non-student, except for graduate assistant employees. So graduate assistants have the benefit of both employee resources as well as the Counseling and Wellness Center because they're also students. But all faculty and staff, including OPS that are non-student OPS, have access to this resource. So you can call the toll-free number listed here. Patricia kindly has put the website in the chat. That website has all the information about how you can access whether you want to do that online or by calling the toll-free number and how it works. In addition, just beyond the counseling itself, you can make a request for child or elder care support, moving and relocation, anything really, from what I understand, anything related to your personal life that you want to ask. If you have a party coming up and you want to find a clown, they'll help you research and find a clown for that party for your kid, or whatever it is that you need. In addition, there's legal guidance. You have access to a lawyer for 30 minutes and reduced fees after that if you just had a legal question that you needed to ask about as well as financial. So we're coming up on tax season. If you had a quick question about your taxes, something that you needed help with, you can get help with that as well. So I encourage you to check those resources out. So you can get support 24/7, go to the website. First time users, there's also an online, you don't need to use, this is the employee assistance program is intentionally separate from your employment because it's your personal life. So when you log in, you don't log in with your Gator link or anything like that. You'll use your own personal username and password, and you'll register with UFEAP. That it'll ask for that. That's listed on our website as well. But if it asks you for your organization ID, our organization ID is UFEAP. So you can reach out to us at that EAP-help email address if you have questions, and visit the website for more info. You can give us feedback via that website as well, either anonymously or with your information. It's also important to know that if you have a situation emerging in your department, if there's a lot of conflict, or if you've had maybe a death of a beloved colleague, anything like that that's happening on a departmental level, you can also request support for your department through the EAP. We can bring a presentation to your college or department, and if you need brochures, let us know. So I think that's what we've got. So again, your two key sources for information to support your well-being are UF at Work, which hopefully you don't drown out in your email, but we know you can miss it sometimes. We do have a website you can go to at any time to check out upcoming events and programs that are available to you. Also, again, that Work Life website, we really encourage you to check out. There's a question about campus gyms that staff are allowed or able to join. So rec sports, you have access to as a staff member. You get, I think for new employees, they give a bit of a free trial, but there's no discount as far as I know at this time for staff. So that is the best I can tell you. You do have access, however, to the Florida pool. So again, on the Work Life site, look for the campus pool section, and that is a benefit of employment. So if you've got a UFID, you're a faculty or staff member, you have access to the pool over at the Florida gym, and you can have access to those locker rooms as well. So look for that info. No gym memberships at this time. What we're trying to do is find ways to provide exercise classes, but we cannot do gym memberships for everybody. I'm going to back up here and look at some of these other questions in the chat. So if you don't like the first therapist, yes, definitely call back the EAP and ask for what you're looking for. If you have difficulty, please do reach out to our team. Again, that EAP-help@ufl.edu. We are evaluating the vendor that we use for the EAP is ComPsych, and sometimes they may or may not be as responsive as we'd like them to be, so we can get in touch with their customer service rep and help push that along if we need to. But yes, definitely call back and find the therapist that works for you. Patricia's already published summer camps, so you guys are getting an early look at the summer camps directory. But again, we'll be advertising that tomorrow. Yes, thank you. Marina is sharing Alachua County Crisis Center. Definitely the EAP is not designed to be for crisis, although there is somebody there 24/7 to answer your call. There's actually a new shorter, similar to 911 number, and I'm blanking on it, but if anybody can put that, thank you. Natalie has it. So suicide prevention hotline is 988. So that's also if you or someone you know is struggling and needs that help, please be sure to direct them there. The EAP is really designed to be for acute acute situations, not to be for crisis. You can call them, but it's most likely they would direct you to the Alachua County Crisis Center or to the suicide prevention hotline. So with that, I know we've just got a few minutes left. Are there any other questions? I do have my contact info here. Our team at worklife.hr, worklife@hr.ufl.edu is here as well if you want to follow up with any questions. I do want to turn it back over to Carley because I know she wanted to share some information about an upcoming program. So Carly, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Angie. So thank you guys all for joining today. We do have a poll for you to complete before you leave. It's just asking if you are planning to attend our post-program meetup. This is going to be happening at the Gainesville Marketplace. So this is at the Heartwood stage. It's right by Depot Park. This will be taking place on March 23rd. So that's a Thursday, different than the normal day we meet. And it also would be taking place 4 to 7 because it's during their farmers market, which gives you guys, the chance to just see what we grow locally around here seasonally, take something home and try a new meal. And also if you want to get in some physical activity, there's Depot Park there to go for a beautiful walk. So please just let us know if you plan on attending or not, or if it's a maybe.